And good day. I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for joining us as we come on the show with Truth for Our Time, is what we're calling it right now. We still haven't settled on a name. If you have ideas, feel free to send them to us. You can be involved as well. Ryan Northfield, thank you for joining me as producer. Ryan is the man behind the glass who makes everything look good, sound good, and fall in place technically, because if you know me, you know I'm not doing that. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I hope you had time with friends, with family. I will say this. I heard a trend, Ryan. I don't know if you've heard of this trend, the Friendsgiving, where folks are getting together with friends instead of family. And this particular article was saying because family was too stressful. Now, I have no problem with Friendsgiving because in your life, in phases of your life, you come across people who are older, younger, who just have a niche in your life, and they fit even as close as family does, and they sometimes fill in a void when your family members aren't nearby. That I get. That I totally get. But to come at it from the angle that you have to have a Thanksgiving with your friends because your family's just too stressful, understand this. At any point when you develop a relationship that's that close with someone, there will be stress, friend, family member, or otherwise. And so these ideas that we have to substitute to, or that we need to replace family because life will just be easier if we just walk away, is never, never true. So I hope this holiday season, we've just had Thanksgiving, we're heading into Christmas, and I hope that you will focus on your family, not run from them. If there are issues in your family, I hope you'll pick up the phone or go and visit and talk to someone. It's never a good idea. It's never a good idea to walk away or to ignore an issue. Sometimes, yes, when we're offended, we need to let things pass. That's not what I'm talking about. But when there is a disagreement, do what you can to work it out. It won't get better. Everyone wants that Kodak Christmas, and you will not have that one glorious, miraculous day until you have 364 days as well, where you can call a family member and be at peace. It doesn't just happen over the holidays. So that's my little unplanned message for you today. I do want to keep you update you, and we have Meg Norris joining us. Meg Norris is a teacher who saw the effects and the impact of Common Core in her classroom right away when she was teaching. We're going to be talking with her, but I want to give you an update, and I need to go to this spot on my computer. Got to put my cheaters on. It's such an interesting stage of life now when I need these little cheaters all the time. The guest we had a couple weeks ago, Josh Berry, if you remember, Josh was the dad who just saw a homework assignment that concerned him. He felt it was lopsided, one-sided, and so he just raised a question with the teacher. The principal let him know that he was not pleased with Josh's input, and later a phone call came to, an email message, a private message on Facebook to a mutual friend labeling Josh as a neo-Nazi. Well, here's a little update on that on the Examiner, and I think it was Renee Knoll, I think is the one who brought us this story. But the teacher who labeled the parent a neo-Nazi gets to keep her job. Labeling a parent a neo-Nazi, and she gets to keep her job. Go figure. And all I have to say is, what do you think might have happened if a student would call their teacher such a name? I just don't think it would go so smoothly. So that's for your review. That's on Examiner, and I'll put that link up on the Facebook page, Truth for Our Time, and I'll try and also put it up on the Stop Common Core Iowa Facebook page, which you can join us on that page as well. And I invite you to go with those links. We are here by webcast1live.com, webcast1live.com. You can join us on that. You can send that link to your friends, even after the podcast is over. Send it along to others, and so that they can learn information as well. More and more of you are tuning in, and you're sending me emails and stories, and I appreciate that so much. I'm going to have Meg join me at this point. Meg Norris, a former teacher. She's a doctoral candidate in education, a certified teacher in Georgia, and after 18 months with Common Core in her classroom, her observations compelled her to walk away from her dream job of teaching to fight against the implementation of Common Core and high-stakes testing. And by doing so, by her speaking out, she was banned from her former school because of her stance on Common Core. We've talked to parents who faced harassment. We've talked to Josh Berry, who was labeled a neo-Nazi because of his questions, simple question and inquiry on an assignment. We've asked about teachers who are speaking out on Common Core, and more teachers are. Teachers' unions, teachers, principals, superintendents are speaking out against Common Core. We worry about the retribution against us and as parents and as for our students. As teachers, your livelihood. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the threat that they face? Meg faced it head on. Meg, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I need to ask for our listeners out there, Ryan will gladly put a subtitle up for you on the screen, but you have, like me, you're in so very many different areas and you're researching in such great length. What would you like us to put up for your subtitle on the screen?
Teacher is fine.
Okay, very
Teacher
good.
Across the board.
And so let's just go, you walked away. Okay, so we're learning why you left teaching. Why did you go into teaching? What was the love that called you into this profession?
Teaching for me was my second life. I was a corporate PR person. Had always wanted to be a teacher, kind of in the back of my head, but followed the original path that I had picked as a freshman in college, and went into nonprofit public relations, and then I stopped work for children for a little while, and then decided that I really wanted to go into what was calling me, and that was teaching. And when I got into it, I knew I had made the right decision, and it was a dream job. It was different every day, and I was lucky enough to be placed in a Title I high school. My first job right out of the gate, and it was in an extremely high poverty neighborhood, and I just fell in love with the kids, and we bonded, and I had a magnificent time with them, and they made huge strides, and all of a sudden things started going downhill when we started doing testing, and we started teaching to standards, and I watched the kids become completely disinterested in school. Even kids who were coming to school for nothing more than to eat were turning away from it. And so I knew something was wrong early on.
Now, I knew when I started communicating with you, and how fun we have the Facebook world that we can connect with people across the globe. Meg and I connected when she and Terry Sassville, if I'm saying her name correctly, you are the founders of MAD, Mothers Against Arnie Duncan, when he came out with his tirade against white suburban moms. Again, the labeling. We just have to get away from those who want to put us into groups, who want to, what it does is it takes the power away from the individual, but it puts us into groups which pits us against each other. And I'm taking this from Governor Huckabee. He said this when he ran in 2008. But when we pit each other against each other and we give the power to the group, not only do we lose the power as individuals, but we become paralyzed. It polarizes us, and we become paralyzed. So I want to come back to that in a minute, but you started MAD, Mothers Against Arnie Duncan, and that website, in the short amount of time it was up, I think I saw it was up to 5,000 likes. Is that the latest?
We have over 5,000 members and going strong. So I have stepped away to work on my own dissertation, but the group is going strong, and we're trying to educate as many moms as we can as to how they can opt their children out of testing, how they can contact their local representatives and governors and voice their concerns about Common Core.
Great. And okay, I want to come back. First off, you must be, your photo, I just assume you were this young chick, Miss Meg Norris. But for you to have been through the career path that you've been, to be so blessed to have had all the experience that you have, and when I hear from your nonprofit, no wonder we seem like kindred spirits of sorts on various issues. So I thank you for that path that you've taken. Let's just talk a little bit about the labels, the differing labels we put on people and how we paralyze. Meg and I come at this from different political stances. Meg, you want to share with people what your political view is?
I am a Democrat and have had the blessing to work mostly with Republicans on this issue. I think the left is a little hesitant to step forward, feeling maybe they're speaking out against their own president. But I really feel like we have to join together on this. This is so much bigger than politics, and I hope we can all come together and make something happen for our kids.
And I absolutely agree. And so as a Republican, I wholeheartedly join with Meg on this issue, and I am enjoying meeting Meg, getting to know Meg. And I ask many of you out there, could you please just take time to get to know someone before you decide that you don't like them or that they're an enemy or an opponent or an adversary? Let's see what we can do working together for our country. Meg and I probably don't agree on a lot of issues, but those issues that we do agree on, I will enjoy working with Meg, and I will enjoy moving forward the benefit of our children and keeping our liberties and our freedoms in this country. So, Meg, thank you. Thank you for that.
And thank you for opening your arms and welcoming me. It's I like I said, I have been many times the only Democrat in the room, and I have been very, very blessed by people who see this also as a much bigger issue than a right and left or a Democrat-Republican issue, and want to see our children in a much better place than they are right now.
We have a caller on the line, but first I want to get to a little bit of your story that you wrote. I love you and I believe in you. You wrote this to your students. Give us a little update summary on that, if you will.
I did. When I left, it was really a last-minute decision. I knew that I had to fight, and I knew that I was not going to be supported by my administration or by my district. So I knew I had to step out and fight from outside, because I knew that fighting from the inside was not going to work. And there are many, many teachers right now who are fighting from the inside, and their students are blessed that they have been able to stay so far. There are, now there is nastiness at work trying to push these teachers out. I have heard of teachers being put on administrative leave. I have heard of all kinds of horrible things being done to teachers because they're speaking out against this. And we have to stop that, because we will never know when anything in the classroom works or doesn't work if teachers are so afraid to speak out. So I decided to leave. I had a meeting with a member of the board for the district where I worked and shared my concerns. I didn't feel like leaving without letting them know what I was seeing in the classroom was worth it. And so I made sure that I did and shared that, and I saw absolutely nothing happen. So after I was banned from the school, because I had promised my students I would come back and be their chaperone for dances and field trips and that kind of thing, and I went back for a field trip and was told at that time that I was no longer one of them, and that they needed to protect the children from me.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. So I knew at that point that I needed to find a way to explain to them where I was. Because, I still communicate with a number of them, and they check in with me, and so I wanted to make sure that they knew. So I wrote this letter and sent it to the local paper, who, of course, did not publish it, but it got out into the blogosphere and went viral, and I'm hoping that most of my students have seen it by now, but I wanted them to understand that the difficulties that they're having in the classroom right now is not their fault.
Absolutely. Here's the trouble with the webcast is there's a camera on me, and I'm concerned that I'm gonna have a trouble making it through the show without a red nose and teary eyes. When I hear that they're blocking you, obviously, Meg, you're a teacher who loves your students. You're a teacher who had another career path, and you chose this one. You chose this, and it's obvious you have a true concern for the betterment of your students. On what grounds did they say they feared you, that you were dangerous?
They were afraid that I was going to try and, I don't know, convince the children not to take tests, or I don't know. I had last year during the school year, I had some children ask me if they had to take their standardized test. I was not going to lie to them; they don't. But that I told them that it was their parents' decision, and if their parents chose for them not to take it, then they wouldn't have to take it. I had a student come back to me and ask for more information. I gave the student a website to take home to his parents so that they could learn more about it if they chose not to have him tested. And there was a big secret investigation of me going on after that. They were pulling kids from my classes and talking to them about what I was teaching and accusing me of all kinds of stuff that was crazy. So, I understand when an administrator has a bonus attached to, testing percentages, which most of them do, that they want to make sure that they get their money. And if I had told kids that they didn't have to take the test and they didn't reach that 95% that they have to test and it affected their bonus, then so be it. But they were nervous about that.
Okay. All right. I want to come back to a couple different things there. First off, we've talked so much about evaluating teachers and correlating their pay with their performance, with how students are doing on test. You just brought another light to it. When you're paying teachers or administrators for test scores, it's a whole different view of that concept.
That's very true. Very true. And many administrators do get bonuses based on how their schools do. It doesn't trickle down to the teachers, but many administrators do get bonuses.
All right, I'm going to break to our phone call because Mary's been patiently waiting, and I want to come back and read a little excerpt of your article as well. I've got it pasted on the chat line here on webcast1live.com. I've posted the link to Meg's article so you too can read it for yourself. Mary, thank you for joining us this morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm just going to start off with a proviso by saying I'm expecting a call from my dog surgeon. I may have to jump off for a minute, but
sorry to keep you waiting.
But the timing is what it is. Meg and I have been communicating on Facebook. I'm a psychotherapist in New York, and her experience is so not unusual in terms of what the teachers are going through. One of my areas of practice is I happen to work with a lot of teachers, just based on who refers to me. And but what's so unusual, of course, is Meg's willingness to stand up and say, this is why I'm leaving, and to be able to leave it all and to say this is why. It's just absolutely brilliant and absolutely just so courageous. We need people to stand up on this issue. It's so out of control. What I'm seeing in the teachers and, of course, the children is mind-blowing. Yeah, your nose is going to start to get red because my office is just loaded with little. I always say the Common Core standards are the equivalent of asking a fish to fly. Mm-hmm. And I always say my little fishes are swimming into my office, blaming themselves for not growing wings. And these kids are broken.
Let me just read. Stay right there, Mary, if you can. Let me just read the article out of Meg's, the paragraph out of Meg's article. I saw you struggling with Common Core skills. Even with the new curriculum from the district, no matter how I broke it down for you, I could see you didn't understand. I saw the frustration on your faces, and when time ran out, we had to take the county's test on the county's schedule. I saw your tears roll from your eyes. You failed. I saw you missing school more days than normal. I saw you with long sleeves covering up the cutting scars on your arms. Mm-hmm. I saw how the sparkle in your eyes dimmed. I saw the small bald spot on your head where you had pulled your hair, pulled out your own hair. And it wasn't just my class. You hated going to math. You came early every day for homework help, but it didn't make any difference. You still could not understand.
Yeah, I hate to tell you how typical that is. This is not one child. This is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of children who are cutting, self-mutilating. The hair pulling. They turn it inward. If they're not capable of understanding or even wrapping their brain around the concept that this is not their fault, we can tell them that it's not their fault, but they internalize it, and they turn the blame on themselves. They've somehow failed. They've somehow disappointed the adults in their life.
And my concern is those adults, those parents, because we as parents, when our kids get home, we tell them how they're not trying, or make sure you're trying hard enough, or surely you're not paying attention in class, or I'm so concerned what parents may be saying to their kids at home with the best of intentions, because it's our goal and our role to motivate our kids.
Well, and one of the biggest things where we all as adults tend to fail children is they get off the bus, and what's the first thing we ask? How was your day? Oh, okay. Not so good. But we don't ask them, what did you learn today? Was there anything that happened today that you found upsetting? What did that feel like when you couldn't answer that question? What did it feel like? To really talk to them, we kind of don't ask the right questions.
Hey, right. And I'm concerned as well for the parents who aren't there when the kids get off the bus. We don't understand. I think we forget that if you're not there when your kids get home from school, it's not like they store it up to talk to you later. You just don't hear it.
Exactly. Many times they're getting off the bus to a grandparent who is even further removed from understanding the work, or a babysitter who maybe is not as invested in the child's well-being. And by the time the parents get home, and the child senses, mom's tired, dad's tired, they're just getting home from work, everybody's preoccupied, and they do. They'll internalize it, and they'll just back right down. Or they don't know how to verbalize it. They don't know how to say it.
Right. Very right. They cannot articulate the feelings, the concern, the frustration that they're being asked to take on that is not theirs. We have to go to a break right here. We'll be right back. This is Tamara Scott with Truth for Our Time. We're talking with Meg Norris, a teacher who wrote the article, I Love You, I Believe in You, after leaving her class because she could not take what Common Core was doing to her students. And Mary, a psychotherapist, has joined us out of New York. I hope both of you can stay on, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device, your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom! Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hey, this is Doc with Doc and Lefty. I want to tell you about our brand new time slot. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's on the same night, Tuesdays. We now follow Ed Fallon and the Fallon Forum on webcast1live.com. I want to tell you a little bit about our show. Our show is focused on local, state, and national, and sometimes international politics. We like to keep people updated and informed. We also have very interesting guests. So please join us every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. There's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray, we're saved! Democrat, you're our hero!
And I am Tamara Scott. Joining me today is Meg Norris, a former teacher who, out of concern in only 18 months of having Common Core in the classroom, saw the negative impact on her students cutting themselves, pulling their own hair out. And because she quit, the school won't even allow her back in as a chaperone. That just blows my mind. But also on the phone with us is Mary, a psychotherapist out of New York. These are not isolated incidents. I'm getting more articles from teachers talking about the cutting, the pulling of hair. And we have a video. I think, Ryan, I'd like to go to that video if it's okay. This video is out of, if I'm saying it correctly, Utica, New York, Utica, New York, and a teacher's talking about what she witnessed in the classroom. We're going to start in at about 3 minutes into this video. Are you on the? Do you need help? Do you need time to do this? Are you okay? He's amazing. All these buttons while he's doing other things. So we'll go to this video.
Give you one final image. It's something that I will be haunted by for the rest of my life. It's a classroom, 6 students spread out, one to a table. It's a testing situation for students with IEPs. One of the only allowable modifications is their test is administered in small groups. During the first half, the teacher reads the verbose repetitive directions and then instructs them to begin. During the first half hour or so, they all sit hunched over their desks, intense concentration on their faces. As time wears on, they begin showing signs of agitation and frustration, fiddling, squirming, looking repeatedly at the clock. The teacher advises them to focus, stay on task, sit still. One of the students seems to be doing something other than writing. Going to investigate, the teacher realizes that the boy is repeatedly stabbing himself in the arm with his pencil. Sorry. As she puts her hand on his shoulder, he looks up at her, his eyes full of tears. In this moment, the teacher's ashamed. I'm sorry. I don't know.
You're fine. Just keep going.
I'm an emotional person. I'm sorry.
Just keep going.
Anyway, I'm going to go off the cuff again because what's really important here is that what I needed to do was to take the pencil out of his hand and tell him this is not important. You do the best you can, and it's not going to matter. And I felt like in that moment, I became a teacher again instead of just an administrator of a test. My special interests are my children, both the ones I'm raising and the ones entrusted to me during the school day. The high-stakes testing and poorly implemented Common Core standards need to go. We need to give our schools back to our parents, teachers, and most of all, our children. Thank you so much for hearing.
Ryan, thank you very much. Meg, Mary, this is not an isolated incident. And to hear this teacher and to watch this video and see her pain, her loss of composure, I can't imagine walking through a classroom and seeing a student stabbing themselves with their own pencil. Meg, you saw similar behavior in your classroom.
I did. I'm crying. I did all the time. And you know, I taught children who went home and became the adult at home. So they had to deal with this kind of abuse in the school and then go home and make sure that the house was clean and cook dinner for younger siblings and also deal with what was happening to their younger siblings. So not only did they not understand why they couldn't get it, but they were trying to explain it to their brothers and sisters. So it's something that was affecting an entire family often, and you know, without a parent at home, you know, parents were working 2 and 3 jobs, and just to survive, and these kids had responsibilities at home, and they couldn't they couldn't answer their younger siblings' questions either. So it snowballed, and it's gotten so out of hand that it needs to be stopped.
Let me ask either one of you. Meg, you worked with Title I kids, and I know that you have some expertise in special needs or at-risk kids. If people are listening, and for those of you who listened to that video, perhaps you couldn't see it, it is obviously a forum, some type of a school board meeting, and I have posted that link on our chat site right here on webcast1live.com. You can join us by chatting webcast1live.com. You can join in the conversation, 855-244-0077. But it is not just special needs kids that are this frustrated. We know some kids have behavior issues. That's not what we're talking about. And tell me, is this happening to kids across the board? All kids?
Yeah. This is happening to everybody. My first inclination that there was a problem was actually I got a rush of 8th grade honors students referred to me for self-mutilation, which is not, it's not an atypical problem at that age, but it is atypical to have 3, 4, and 5 times as many calls come into my office as on an ordinary day, and that they were all coming in complaining. They were citing school problems as their reason for their stress. They weren't talking about their parents or their boyfriends or anything else. They couldn't take the pressure. I can't take the pressure anymore. Kirsten's testimony, by the way, she and it is Utica.
Thank you.
That was the New York State Assembly is holding forums all throughout the state. So did the Senate, because there's a bill in our New York State Assembly to get Common Core out of New York State. So that was actually an assembly hearing, and we were very proud of my assemblyman is the one who wrote the bill. And the Senate, the Assembly actually had me testify when they were down here on Long Island, but the New York State Senate actually said they didn't think mental health was relevant to the discussion, and didn't think it was very important to have that be part of the hearings. That ought to tell you something about what's going on in our state capitol.
Well, and to the teachers as well, the stress and the upset that the teachers are going through and have zero support. Zero.
I tell people all the time, and I go out and I champion about the kids. I discuss the teachers, but I champion about the kids because it's clear that nobody in a legislative position cares what's happening to the teachers. It's abundantly clear. And if you're going to pull on anybody's heartstrings, we have to use the kids. But I tell people all the time, you name a job where your pay and your ability to keep your job is based on somebody else's performance. And you can't name one. And these children are under so much stress in so many other areas. I talk about it in my testimony. They're up texting half the night. They're online. They're tweeting in class. They're going through all kinds of everything else that teachers have absolutely no control over. And those things have full-out effect on their school performance. They're up all hours of the night. And yet the teachers are being held accountable for how they perform on tests.
And when you mentioned they're tweeting in class and this computerized technology, and much of the assessments will be on computer, and we also have another teacher who has been kind of a watchdog, and I'm not sure if I can pull up his name quick enough, but he wrote about the cheating. Trevor Colstock out of Florida, I believe, is talking about the increased chances and the increased incidence of cheating. I think he blew the whistle in his own school district about the cheating. So one more on a pile of many, one more negative with Common Core. And I know New York has been one of the leading states on this as far as really getting the word out. I don't know if it hit more quickly in New York, if you're ahead of the other states, of those of us, at least in the Midwest, on this, because you have had so many superintendents write letters to your commissioner on education explaining why it's failing. They talk about students vomiting, students having nosebleeds. One, I think, was even hospitalized, students acting out, the behavior. In fact, the list, I think, of 80-plus superintendents and principals have written saying why the Common Core testing is failing their students.
Yeah, I think I don't know that we're ahead of the pack on this for any other reason other than the fact that we've got that bill up there and they're really pushing the discussion in the state capitol, and it's really opened up a lot, you know.
Do you have a link to that bill, Mary, or can you send me a link later and I can put it on our website?
Yeah,
because
absolutely. Absolutely.
We have people wanting legislation. We're meeting with legislators in Iowa, the few who care, the few who are concerned about students, and those who are not sold out to special interest or party politics.
Oh, yeah. I'll Facebook it to you. Absolutely.
Okay, excellent.
Finding those are few and far between.
I know, and it's not always popular when you make such a statement as well when you're in my position, but I ran for this position. It was about for my fellow Iowans and the students and the members of the state, and that's what I believe we have to do in stopping Common Core. And you keep coming back to the performance on the test, and you know, the best of our intentions. This is where we need to understand. I remember being on the argument and talking about we have to somehow evaluate teachers. Ladies, I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I don't think any of this is necessary. I think you can walk into a classroom, or better yet, the coffee shop in a community, and you'll know who your best teachers are by what teachers, parents want their students to have.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You can tell within 2 minutes of being in a classroom. You can tell by the energy in the room. You can tell by just the environment and the reactions of the kids. And, you know, all the years that I was in teaching, I maybe came across one fellow teacher who probably shouldn't have been there. You know, No Child Left Behind required all teachers to be highly qualified. So we all jumped through the No Child Left Behind hoops to become highly qualified. Whatever they threw at us, we jumped through it. And now all of a sudden, after 10 years of that, they're still saying that it's the teacher's fault. You know, at what point, do we need a med school kind of thing for teachers? What is it?
No, we don't. You and I both know that.
What is it that they want from teachers?
Yeah.
And and to add on to the teacher stress, just in the last year I was teaching, I had three of my peers diagnosed with cancer. One did not survive the year. I watched 3 go down with mental health issues and needed medical leave. And at this point, when I am online and I am talking to parents and I am talking to other teachers, I'd say more than half of the teachers that are contacting me want to know how they can go on medical leave. You know, what can they do to get a break, to take a break? What kind of stress are we putting on the people who are entrusted with the care of our own children? Why are we not taking care of them too?
If you're just tuning in, I am talking with Meg Norris, a former teacher who had the courage to walk away. And Meg, I believe God has a plan, and there's always, nothing is a coincidence. I think everything happens for a reason. The fact that you had another career path and then you went into teaching, I think is what maybe gave you the courage to walk away, where others may not feel like they have a choice. It's all they've ever known.
Well, I was very blessed. I was very blessed in that my husband is incredibly supportive and has always understood that, you know, I'm kind of a free spirit, and he was incredibly supportive when I said to him, I can't do it. I can't fight this from the inside. I have to leave, and I have to stand up for these kids. And you know, I thank God we were in a financial position that I could do that. But so many teachers are not. And I knew that if I didn't, that there were even fewer people who could.
Right.
And so I had to, you know, and it cut our income in half. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
Right.
There's a lot of peanut butter and jelly flying around this house. Yep. But you know, it was the right thing to do, and because I could, I had to, and I did.
We've got to go to another break right now, and I'd love it if both of you can stay on the line. Meg, I look forward when we come back. We're going to go through your article a little bit more. A couple of different things you said that I've heard repeated. Your article definitely went viral. You can just do a search for Meg Norris. and I love you, I believe in you will come up. I have it at the chalk face, and I've put it on Stop Common Core Iowa, and I've put it on Truth for Our Time. After the show is over, you'll be able to get it. You can always get this podcast as well. I think Tamara Scott Live on YouTube is the way you can get podcast of this show. I ask that you will forward it, not for any other reason than to get the information out. The video of the teacher at Utica at that hearing, I wish that would go viral. It's got 653 views. It's about a 7-minute video, but about 3 minutes in is when she tells that story. And I wish we could clip out, I don't have the copyrights to that, but I wish we could clip out that little 2-minute scenario just so people understand what is going on. She is not alone. Meg is telling you a similar story. Mary, a psychotherapist out of New York, is telling you it's not just isolated situations. It's not just at-need, at-risk students. It is students across the board, high-performing students who are used to be able to studying and grasping material. But this material and this testing is inappropriate. It is not sequential, and there is no way students can get it and understand. Maybe a very few will, but we're asking way too much of our students. Unrealistic goals, and that's coming not from me, but from a variety of teachers in a series of articles that are now coming out on the web. And we thank Meg Norris for her courage. And Mary, thank you for joining us. We'll be back right after this. I hope you can stay tuned with us. We're being powered by webcast1live.com. I am Tamara Scott with Truth for Our Time.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.
I am Tamara Scott. Thanks for staying tuned with us. This is the third segment of our show today with Meg Norris, who is a former teacher who saw what Common Core was doing to her students in just 18 months of it being in the classroom. Mary Cowell is joining us as well. Mary Cowell is she's a psychotherapist out of New York, and there is a web page, a Facebook page, I have to tell you, Mental Health Professionals Against Common Core. Mary, thank you so much for joining in our conversation today as well. And sending me the messages. I just uploaded on the chat line, I just uploaded the link to the legislation in New York. I've uploaded the video with the teacher telling the story. And so you can get these things at webcast1live.com. Also, have them for Truth for Our Time Facebook page, as well as the Iowa Stop Common Core in Iowa page. There are two of those, but the one for this show is the orange square for the profile picture, Stopping Common Core in Iowa. Ladies, let's go back to this article. Meg, you have hit so many points. I commend you because your article is not long, it's not lengthy, and yet you've hit several of the key points. You brought up the rigor. The rigorous standards is what we're told, but we know they're not rigorous standards. Dr. James Milgram says they're actually less, and most students will not be eligible for a 4-year selective college. They'll have to go to a 2-year college, if that, and many will need remedial training. But you talk about rigor, and I'll read. Look it up in the dictionary for me. Rigor is for dead people.
I hate the word rigor. Hate it. Terrible word. Terrible word. It really does. It applies to dead people, and it shouldn't apply. It shouldn't come anywhere close to a classroom. And my concern, and I think where Mr. Duncan's famous quote now came from, was that they are blaming these struggles that kids are having on rigor. They're saying, oh, well, it's so much harder than what they're used to, and so they're struggling, and that's why the kids are upset. They're having to work harder than they've ever had to work, and it's because of the rigor. Well, it's not rigor. It is developmentally inappropriate. We are asking kids to do things that their brains are not ready to do. And I mean, it's basic child development, and it highlights so painfully that there were no teachers and certainly no childhood development experts involved in the writing of these standards. People are saying, oh, well, let's just slow down the implementation. It's not going to make any difference. When you read these standards, they sound great. I would love for my third grader to be able to compare and contrast multiple early civilizations. But my third grader's brain is not yet wired to be able to think, much less write, at that level of abstract thinking. And, we're setting these kids up to fail.
Right.
We're setting the teachers up to fail. And Duncan wants to call it rigor.
Yeah, and there's another article, The Indignant Teacher, on WordPress.com, and his most disturbing, it says it's the most disturbing post yet, but he talks about the same thing you're saying, the inability for these kids to do so. I have a little bit of hesitancy on this because when we read the Founding Fathers, many of them were at Harvard at age 13. Many of them, John Trumbull had read his Bible through at age 4. He was beating his own pastor at either a Greek or a Latin contest at age 7. And so I know that under the right criteria, the right setting, the right training, kids can develop much more quickly and they can achieve. But in the educational setting in which we've had them in for the last 5 decades, that is not this case. And it's like asking these kids to swim in the ocean while we've tied tire rims to their feet.
Or to sprout wings, as Mary said. Yes,
absolutely. So we understand that under the right setting, some children, yes, may be able to achieve a higher standard. But as Meg said, well, there's just a huge difference between rigorous and not. Because you do something over and over and it's beat into you does not mean it's a high standard.
Well, and it's very easy too, as a parent, when your child is doing well and is handling it, and comes from a background where you as a parent are constantly engaging them in discussion, and you live in a very they live in a very print-rich environment, and there's these expectations have been placed on them from day one, and your child is doing great, you don't see this is going on, and it's easy to ignore it. And we need all parents all parents to step up and to understand that it's not easy for the majority of these kids.
And you also talk about $600 billion a year on education reform. Education reform is an industry in itself. It's a money-making industry for a few select suppliers and corporations in itself, whether it's No Child Left Behind. And many of the people came on this program because they thought there would be a waiver from the No Child Left Behind, but we know that those are going to expire, I believe, and something similar or just as dangerous and unhealthy in the classroom is coming back to replace it. You also talk about the corporations and behind this, and for the first time in history of this country, privately written and copywritten plans. They're public policy, but here's the problem. We can't do FOIAs. We can't do Freedom of Information Act on these. So we as the public are handing over our children to people who are not accountable, and we can't even get the information.
Not only are they not accountable, when you look at who owns whom, basically, the web of interconnectedness that had to exist in order for these standards to end up where they are today is as upsetting as the video you just played. It really is disgusting. And when you look at the fact that one company, the Pearson Education, owns the majority of educational publishing now. So all of the textbooks now that are coming in, I shouldn't say all, but a majority of the textbooks that are coming into the classroom now are coming from Pearson. Well, Pearson is so interconnected with the groups that developed Common Core. They had these textbooks ready long before Common Core was forced onto the states. Companies like Scholastic, they were given these standards so far in advance that when you walk into a Barnes & Noble now, there are row after row after row of Common Core labeled books.
Right.
And they did it on purpose. They knew the kids were going to struggle. And guess what? When your kid is at home and is in tears because they don't understand their math, because they're being counted off for how they did it, not that they got the right answer, you're going to run out to the local bookstore and find any help you can have available to try and help your child. So, and teachers are doing the same thing. They're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars of their own money to go to the bookstore to find help to try and teach these kids these standards that developmentally they're not going to understand. Their brains are not going to understand it no matter how you teach it to them. So, and I said this in a speech recently, I truly believe that the parents and the teachers of this country are being fleeced by these corporations who knew about Common Core long before any of us did and have now put it out in the stores as help aids because they knew the kids were going to struggle.
And you question whether politicians who are pushing this or refusing to take a stand on it in the very least might be getting campaign donations, contributions, and favors from these corporations as well.
My plan, actually, I'm all over this because our entire state assembly and Senate is up for re-election next year, and our governor. And my plan is to follow the money on all their campaign donations. I don't care if I have to give up sleeping. I'm going to find out where they're getting their money from.
Good for you.
And if you go to the Gates Foundation, they have a list of where their money has been going, and you can see exactly where, exactly how this was funded.
But then they also form these little shell corporations, and you have to follow the bouncing dollar because they're hiding it.
Oh, sure.
And Mary, maybe we should have you come back and help us learn how to do that, because I have people in Iowa asking me, how do I find out who's paying for the chair of the Education Committee's trips? How do I find, because they're sending them out to learn about this Common Core across the nation. How do we find out who's paying for those? And I want to come back to as well, SATs, ACTs, Pearson's helping write those tests. What a conflict of interest for one publishing company to be able to have the grasp on what's on those tests.
Well, and one of the architects of the Common Core is now the president of the College Board,
David Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And when we talk about being forced on the states, just to clarify for those of you who may not understand the background of it, came in with Race to the Top, came in with stimulus funds, but when your state voluntarily applied to get Race to the Top funds, you said that you would implement Common Core, and I'm working with Joy Pullman, another great force in explaining and stopping Common Core, but she and I were discussing the fact in those memorandums of understanding, many states have said they would change state laws to comply with the data collection, unspecified data collection of students, even though we don't know what those will be until they're released in 2014. So if you've got laws on the books to protect privacy, student privacy, and Iowa's looking at laws on that right now, will it do any good if your state's already signed that memorandum of understanding a couple years back that you would change your laws to comply?
Well, in our case, our state has already started the upload to InBloom. We are the last InBloom state. And my particular school district just recently had a 17-year-old hack the school district records.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I laughed too. And he posted, it was all the people who applied for free and reduced lunches and the vaccination records, the health records of the students for like a 5-year period. There are 30-year-olds right now who's when they were 17, their records they're out there.
I laughed, but if you've got a student who has a health, this is not funny.
No. But it's like, you know what? It had to happen. It has to happen. People have to get hurt to understand what's going on here.
I don't understand why there are not more lawsuits. You have a lawsuit in New York to stop Common Core.
I don't know if we have a lawsuit to stop Common Core. We have a legislation, but I don't know if there's any lawsuit.
There is one.
There's one on the data mining.
Yes, there is one on the data mining, and there is also one that is, I believe, getting ready to be filed from the point of view of special education and Common Core as a violation of IDEA.
Good.
Okay, yes, Meg, you and I were talking about that, but I believe there is another lawsuit, and I can look it up on my Common Core leaks. I try and archive and catalog all this, and as you know, it's just
a lot of material.
Mary, when you say we're going to lose sleep, you're not lying. Meg and I had a great conversation about 2 a.m. on the eve of Thanksgiving.
2 a.m. is all we have left.
I'm decorating the table and Facebooking and. Yes, making goods, and yes.
I'm still putting the Halloween decorations away.
The truth be told for most of us.
Exactly.
Okay, we are coming down on the close of the program, and I thank you both. Meg, thank you for taking time to join me. And I want to come back to this. Meg and I we realized somewhere in our conversations that we did not agree probably on every political issue. We come from different political angles, and yet we both can come together to do what is right, to do what is best for our children. And I ask all of you out there, would you please consider the same thing? Quit looking at people by a label and look at each other by how you want us to live. Look at how you would want someone to treat you. I guess the golden rule is the best way to say it, but could we start doing that and putting aside all of those categories and limitations that others would put on us through those labels and work together to do what is right for our children and for our country and for our liberties. I was reading a quote from one of our founding fathers and what a blessed thing this Constitution was in the first time in 6,000 years to have such a document, and that how we should protect it and safeguard it, because who knew when the next one would come along. That was the first one in 6,000 years. May it be the only one. Mary, thank you for joining in our conversation. Thank you for your work as a psychotherapist in New York. I appreciate what you've added to the conversation. Meg, you've got 30 seconds maybe on the way out. What would you like to close with?
I would love to encourage parents to opt their children out of this testing.
Yes.
That the data that is collected from this testing is the driving fuel behind Common Core. If you say no to testing, Common Core will eventually fall apart from the inside. So opt your children out.
And it will not hurt your child. Yes, there may be
they'll
try and tell you SATs, ACTs, all that, but your child would be better off if you say no to the Common Core test. Your child would be better off, and you're right, it takes the system out. Mary.
And it only takes 10% of parents in a school to opt out for the test to be invalid.
Mary, I have no time left, but thank you so much. I hope you will join me again.
Thanks for having me.
And I love the Judy Blume quote. We'll put that up on my Facebook a little bit later in Meg's article. Parents, you are responsible for your children. You're the only advocate. You are their advocate. Please put them first. Put their future first. And in thus doing so, putting our future first as a country. I am Tamara Scott. We are out of time. Do not be discouraged. Always be encouraged and never be complacent. Thanks for joining us.